They said Florida's housing market was unstoppable. But what if I told you one storm, just close enough, nearly froze the entire dream overnight? 4 years, the Sunshine State was sold as paradise on the rise. Prices doubled. New residents poured in. Even the governor bragged about record growth. But when Hurricane Aaron's monstrous winds threatened to flatten the coast, everything changed. Deals collapsed, buyers vanished, and the governor was left scrambling as insurance failures spread panic. Experts now warn, one single crisis could unleash financial disaster for hundreds of thousands of Floridians. So, why are smart investors abandoning Florida just as the rest of America seems to be rushing in? It started with what looked like a fairy tale. Sunshine, palm trees, and moving vans lined up along I-95. In 2021, South Florida became the finish line for America's Great Migration. By the end of that year, more than 330,000 new residents swapped snow for sand, pushing the state's population past 22 million. Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and Broward counties exploded with growth. In just 30 months, the median home price in key zip codes doubled. A modest 3-bedroom in Boca Raton that once sold for $480,000 suddenly closed at $975,000. It was frenzy. Realtors fielded offers from buyers who had never even stepped foot in Florida. Bidding wars became routine. Sellers set deadlines. Buyers waived inspections. From Coral Gables to Jupiter Island, the governor himself called it paradise on the rise. He pointed to the numbers. Record job growth. Record home values. Record net migration. Florida, he claimed, wasn't just lucky, it was proof of leadership. Tax breaks, open schools, and a business-friendly pitch lured families and investors by the thousands. Press conferences showed ribbon cuttings at luxury towers. National outlets ran stories of Wall Street firms buying up entire neighborhoods. The message was simple. If you wanted the American dream, Florida was the place to chase it. But beneath the glossy listings, the cracks started to show. In West Palm Beach, the average home price hit $540,000, but so did the average monthly payment. Insurance quotes skyrocketed. Closing costs ballooned. For every story of a cash buyer landing a condo, another local family was priced out of their own neighborhood. Yet, the headlines stayed bright. The governor doubled down, promising the boom would last. But the fine print told another story. Since 2022, 6 insurance carriers failed in Florida. That left hundreds of thousands scrambling for coverage, right as hurricane season began. By 2025, Citizens Property Insurance, the state-run backstop, was covering more than 1.3 million homes. That's nearly 1 in 8 homes in the entire state. And here's the danger. If a major storm hits, every Florida policyholder could be charged extra, even if they're with a private insurer. Premiums exploded. In Broward, the average homeowner's policy now costs $6,291. In Miami-Dade, it's $6,170, over double the national average. For families, insurance isn't just a line item anymore. It's the wild card that can make or break a deal. Mortgage math. Mortgage costs piled on. A 30-year fixed loan on a median-priced South Florida home now runs $2,100 a month, double what buyers paid just 3 years ago. That extra $1,100 isn't small change. It's the difference between qualifying for a starter home and being locked out entirely. Sellers who bought at the 2022 peak are stuck. Cut prices, offer cash at closing, or watch equity vanish. Across the Tri-County region, 41,000 homes now sit unsold, inventory up 61% from last year. Pending sales dropped 11% in the first quarter of 2025. Market cracks widen. The numbers speak for themselves. Fort Lauderdale had the highest deal cancellation rate in the U.S. 21.3% of pending sales fell through in July. Miami and Tampa aren't far behind. Inventory jumped more than 50% in a year. For sellers, the leverage is gone. For buyers, the fear is rising. And then came the memory of Florida's most devastating lesson. August 24, 1992, Hurricane Andrew slammed into Homestead with winds of 165 miles per hour. Entire neighborhoods were flattened. More than 28,000 homes were reduced to rubble. Over 180,000 people were left homeless. Florida's building codes at the time? A patchwork of 400 different sets of rules. Roofs fastened with nails and hope. Windows that shattered at the first flying debris. Inspectors later found many homes failed not from the storm, but from weak enforcement. The fix came later. Stronger building codes in 1994. A single statewide code in 2002. Homes built after suffered 87% less wind damage than their pre-Andrew counterparts. Andrew's lesson was clear. Paradise comes with a price. Closing Part 1. And just as Florida thought it was stronger, Hurricane Erin came spinning across the ocean with winds up to 160 miles per hour, threatening to paralyze the market with nothing more than a forecast. Showings canceled. Contracts froze. Insurance companies locked down. Florida's boom had always been sold on confidence. But what happens when confidence itself collapses? That's where we pick up in Part 2. Florida's housing boom survived inflation, rising interest rates, and even supply shortages. But when one storm made landfall, the cracks in the foundation were exposed for the entire world to see. The market wasn't built to collapse in a day. But when Hurricane Erin's winds tore across the state, that's exactly what happened. Showings were canceled. Closings froze. And investors who had bet billions on Florida's unstoppable growth suddenly went quiet. Erin wasn't the first major storm, and it won't be the last. But its timing was devastating. Just as prices were peaking and inventory was piling up, thousands of families found themselves facing canceled insurance policies, delayed repairs, and lenders who refused to finalize loans. Realtors in Miami told stories of buyers who pulled out of deals at the last second, terrified that another storm could wipe out their dream home before the ink was dry. And the governor? He shifted from celebrating growth to managing chaos. Governor Ron DeSantis took the microphone with a new kind of message: stability. He pushed what critics called the tax kill bill, designed to slash property taxes for struggling families. He demanded stricter oversight on insurance companies, promising relief to homeowners whose premiums had doubled or even tripled in just 2 years. But relief was slow to arrive. For many, the damage was already done. Investors noticed. Blackstone, the private equity giant that had snapped up rental homes during Florida's boom, quietly pulled back. Other institutional buyers froze acquisitions altogether, waiting to see if the insurance crisis would spiral into something worse. Without Wall Street's appetite, entire neighborhoods that had once sold in weeks suddenly lingered on the market. In Cape Coral, condos that once sparked bidding wars sat vacant. In Miami, luxury towers that promised 80% occupancy struggled to break 40%. For families, the crisis became painfully real. Take Broward County. A retired couple watched their homeowner's insurance jump from $2,900 a year to over $9,000. Their fixed income couldn't keep up. They listed their home, hoping to cash out, only to find no buyers willing to touch a property with such staggering costs. Or consider young families in Tampa. They had saved for years, finally qualifying for a mortgage, only to see the required insurance premium add $600 a month, pushing their dream out of reach. The math simply didn't work anymore. The numbers told the same story. In Miami, active listings climbed more than 60% year over year. In Tampa, pending sales dropped 11% in the first quarter of 2025. Across South Florida, more than 41,000 homes sat unsold. And cancellations? Fort Lauderdale topped the entire country, with 21% of all pending sales falling apart before closing. The dream of a forever boom was turning into a cautionary tale. For longtime Floridians, the headlines felt eerily familiar. They remembered 2008, when the housing bubble burst. Investors fled. Builders stopped mid-construction. Entire communities became ghost towns. The difference this time? It wasn't reckless lending that drove the market to the edge. It was the crushing weight of insurance costs, storm risk, and affordability collapse. DeSantis insisted Florida would weather the storm. He reminded residents that building codes had been strengthened, that migration numbers still showed net gains, and that the state's fundamentals remained strong. But behind the speeches, one truth lingered: confidence had been shaken. And in real estate, confidence is everything. So, where does Florida go next? If insurance premiums keep climbing, even wealthy buyers may hesitate. If institutional investors continue to retreat, inventory could flood the market. And if another major hurricane makes landfall, the fragile balance between growth and collapse could tip overnight. But Florida isn't out of the game yet. Its beaches, its climate, its tax structure, these are still powerful draws. The question is whether families and investors can stomach the risk. Florida was once sold as paradise on the rise. But today, it feels more like a gamble. Incredible opportunity on one side, devastating risk on the other. For buyers, sellers, and investors, the choice is no longer just about price. It's about survival. And as the storms keep coming, both economic and natural, only one question remains. Will Florida's real estate market recover, or are we watching the beginning of its greatest test yet?